Welcome back, everybody. It is another late night, although not as late as it could be, and it is time for Championship Week Video Notebook, day number 8. I'm your host, Chad Sherwood. We got David Briggs over there, John Sleek below, and who knows who else will join on here, if anybody, as we go through the show. But that's where we go because we don't wait for anybody. We start these shows.
Yes, we're
Uh,
not even waiting for the West Coast Conference tonight.
and this is the show where you learn anything and everything you need to know about every day of Championship Week. In
Yes.
fact, Griggs, what I do is I go and I watch our show so I can learn about this stuff so I can talk about it in the show.
That's what I do. Like, I always want to watch this show first before coming on. That way I know what's going on.
Yeah, so that way that's why we know all the stuff about all these games because we watch the show first. And
Right.
that's why
Yeah.
you should be watching.
Yeah.
It is our Championship Week video notebook, and I have good news for everybody. Although he did try to escape,
Well, this isn't good news. How is this good for anyone? Keeping me in this bunker. What is this accomplishing? How is this making the shows any better?
um,
I don't
we
I mean,
got you locked in the bunker. That's what we're supposed to do at Hoops HD.
well, I mean, if you let me out, then I would be able to walk around and go places.
No
Well,
letting you
if
out
we
of the
let
bunker.
well, if we let you out, my extended family has some guard dogs to make sure you
Mhm.
don't escape the bunker.
There we go. Um, Going back to little news and notes, not too much, no more regular season games, but big news, Griggs. Hurley was fired. I mean, who's going to coach UConn for the NCAA
I
tournament?
know. I mean, it's just the loss to Marquette was a game they should have won. But my goodness, what a huge overreaction for to fire Coach Hurley
Coach
after
Hurley
that.
was fired. Oh, maybe it was the other Coach Hurley. Yes, Arizona State did let Bobby Hurley go.
Yeah. And
But
he
let's.
he had some really good years there. I mean, I'm not shocked they let him go, but
He was an expert at getting to the first four for a few years there.
yeah, he really was.
Let's jump over to the two championship games tonight. Start things out in the SoCon, where Stalika Furman, he says he made a few runs, but it was kind of wire to wire here tonight.
Well, Furman also has something that most under the radar teams typically don't have, and that is they have the size to really go up against some of the top or Big Four conferences, shall we say, along with the Big East, should they get matched up with a team like that. Furman is a team that can cause some potential matchup problems, and they clearly did not look the worse for wear after the close win against UNC Greensboro the day before.
Yeah, and Griggs, although they were the sixth seed, we mentioned last night this was your preseason favorite.
Yep.
They led the league for portions of the year, and it was really, I think, 1 through 6 were really close all through the season this year in this league.
Yeah, they really were, and down the stretch, Furman was probably as good as anyone. It was a little bit ironic. You could say that the bracket collapsed a little bit. Their path was a 6 and a 7 to get to the championship game. This was an exciting conference tournament, really all throughout, all the way until the night. This was the most lopsided game of the whole event.
I think it really was. Maybe that Greensboro VMI game was the only other one that was not close, but
Yeah,
that was in the 7-10 game on
yeah,
Friday night that nobody even
right.
watched. Yeah, but so congrats to the Paladins. They're back in the NCAA tournament. Virginia's praying not to get them.
Yeah.
But, um,
Oh,
I hear it. Could it be
yes.
for the last time this year?
Oh,
We go to
I
the
miss it.
stairway to seven.
Yeah, we've been updating the Stairway to Seven like every night since February. This has been just a long, long conference
It's
tournament.
February. I think we've been doing it since October, honestly. Feels
Yeah.
like it. But the big story going into this game, Griggs, was Georgia Southern was playing for the sixth day in a row. I don't ever remember any team in the history of college basketball since I've been watching playing 6 games in 6 days.
Well,
There
there,
haven't.
yeah, there haven't been, and we know that. Like we've been doing this a long time, and all the
Hmm.
way up until a couple years ago, I think all but two of the tournaments were over in 4 rounds. So these extended ladders are fairly new.
Yeah, and what I read today was there are now actually on college basketball history there have been 5 teams that have won 5 games in 5 days in a conference. Two of them were back in the 1920s, so it don't really
Really.
count. Then we had that
I
UConn run where they ended up winning the national championship after 5-5, and the NC State run where they went to the Final Four.
right,
Georgia
yeah.
Southern, the first team in modern history that's won 5-5 and did not go to the Final Four because they did
Yes.
not win 6-6, and so they're
Right.
not. Uh, they're
Yeah,
not.
and Troy just kind of dominated this game. Georgia Southern hung around for a little bit, but Troy got control of it in the second half. And I mean, by the end of the game, it didn't really feel like at any point that Troy was going to lose it. They had a good year. They were up and down, as was everybody in this conference for at one point or another. They had some close calls. You might remember the close loss at USC, many overtime games. When Troy plays up to their ceiling, they are potentially really dangerous. And I think nothing against anybody else. I think the right team for the Sun Belt is going to the NCAA tournament. Having said that, Chad, despite being the 10th place team, had Georgia Southern won this, and if you count the conference tournament games as conference games, they would have tied Troy for the most wins in the conference, despite being the 10 seed, because of this ridiculous ladder format.
Yeah, and how about that? Yeah, as far as games, League, Georgia Southern made one run early in the second half, but honestly, I thought this was a team that was just out of gas. It looked like a team that was playing 6 games in 6 nights.
Thing is, Troy actually got out to a double-digit lead in the first half, and I probably felt they did run out of gas early enough. I just switched over to the
Mm.
Horizon game, which we'll get into later. Actually, was competitive for a while, or at
It
least longer
was.
than this game was.
Yeah, but so congrats to the Troy Trojans. They are into the NCAA tournament as well. That was it for the championship games today, but let's go to some semifinals and maybe start with the conference of the night, which began with a blowout but had a hell of a game, hell of a nightcap over in the CAA. Monmouth kind of pulled away in the second half to take care of Campbell, but Stalika, how about this Hofstra Towson overtime game?
This was almost felt like a home game for Towson, given that they were only about maybe 45 minutes to an hour from their campus in the Baltimore area. But my goodness, you talk about being overdue for a big finish. The bank was open late on Monday night for the Pride, and they ended up hitting a bank shot from about 27 feet to give
Yeah.
them the win here and advance to the title game.
Yeah, Griggs, Preston Edmead who hit that shot, and it can't be the shot they drew up. It was a lousy
No.
shot. It was off balance. It was covered. It was off the glass, and 3/10 of a second yet left. They hit it and they win the game.
Yeah, and that is just sort of crazy to think. I always say basketball can be a maddening game because you can do everything right, execute perfectly, get the exact shot you want, and the person taking it. And if the ball doesn't go in, you get nothing. In this case, it was executed poorly. They started way too late in the shot or in the game clock, I thought, to really get anything. They didn't get anything other than a garbage shot that was so off that it hit the backboard, but then it went in.
I was going to say, between Towson and Navy, has anyone suffered more than people in Baltimore watching college basketball in the past 24 hours?
Hey, we're going to get back to them in a bit, though. When we talk America East, UMBC is still alive. We'll get there. But first of all, tomorrow night, King Rice versus Speedy Claxton, two programs that have not been to the NCAA tournament in over 20 years each. I think it's 25 now for Hofstra. Uh, I think we could be for a great cup championship game here, quite honestly.
Yeah,
I do.
back when Speedy Claxton was actually playing for Hofstra and they had some guy named Jay Wright coaching them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
It,
what do you think, Griggs? What happens?
I'm sticking with Hofstra. I know Monmouth looked more impressive. I also don't think they were playing quite as strong of an opponent, and certainly not as strong of an opponent in front of a favorable crowd. And Hofstra, while they've had moments where they've kind of gone into the tank, they've been as good as anybody in the league, and I think they get it done tomorrow.
John, I think you're on the Monmouth bandwagon with me.
Yep, I think the Hawks, they're about 10 years overdue.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I'll be happy for, I mean, either way, it's a good story for either team. It's always fun to see a team get in that hasn't been in for a long time.
Yeah, Hofstra is basically a 25-year overdue library book. That sounds like an old Seinfeld episode.
Yeah, they got snubbed one year. I thought they should have been selected and weren't.
Yeah, both teams have been snubbed. Yeah.
Yeah, they have been.
Horizon League time. Slika, you talk about watching it. So why don't you give us a report on Wright State NKU and UDM Robert Morrison. How about UDM?
This was a game where Northern Kentucky actually got out to a 7-point lead in the first half, but as we saw Wright State do in their opener against Cleveland State, they gradually chipped away at the lead and then they just blew it open in the second half against the Norse. In fact, I think Wright State's probably outscored teams in the second half by I want to say at least 40 points collectively so far. So for Detroit Mercy, of course, they did get a little bit of help from an unforced error by Robert Morris in the final minute where the Colonials looked like they had a chance to take the lead, but they threw a completely unforced out of bounds pass, and that basically allowed Detroit to begin running the clock out and advance to their first title game since I think they said 2012 on the broadcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Greg, this Detroit Mercy team is just a few years removed from a one-win season where they almost
Yes.
won our Centenary Award. They did not that year, but it was close. And on top of that, this is the first year since the Horizon League went to the format where the finals, semifinals, and finals are in Indianapolis. They've even qualified to get to Indianapolis, and here they are with a real shot to win it tomorrow night.
They do. They are. I mean, this is kind of a live wire team. Wright State, the number one overall seed, the first place team. I almost think Detroit has looked a little bit better and been a little bit more consistent down the stretch. A really big win for Wright State today over a Northern Kentucky team that was also playing well. I'm actually really, really excited for this game tomorrow. It's hard to pick because I'm picking Detroit, but it's a 52-48, 51-49 type of pick. It really could go either way.
And if Detroit Mercy does win, we'll be celebrating with a
Ametta's
square
here.
pizza. Oh,
Woohoo!
Abena, first of all,
Yeah,
thanks for joining us. How are you
yeah.
doing?
All right.
I'm doing great. Thank you. I finally made it. I got so excited that I finally made it. So yeah, just tournament ended today, so I'm excited to finally kind of get back to some normalcy and catch myself up on pretty much everything that I've missed over this past week.
I
Well, I'll
want
tell
to
you
get back to
what.
normalcy too, but Chad won't let me out of the bunker. Still
Well, I'll
locked
tell
in.
you what, Abena, even though we're not actually specifically talking ASUN tonight, you have been at the ASUN tournament all week. I know you're at the women's game tonight. How about the championship game from yesterday, though? You had any thoughts on the great win by Queens over Central Arkansas?
Oh yeah. Oh my God, what a great game. We were talking about how none of the games were particularly sweaty throughout the tournament. Some of them were close, but then, with the fouls and stuff at the end, they kind of trickled into maybe like a 6 to 10 point range. So there weren't any like buzzer beaters or any sweats really. And then we get two overtime championship games. Like, what are the odds? Both championship games for men's and women's go to overtime. So yeah, so that game was crazy because Central Arkansas, I mean, they are so talented. I mean, obviously Cameron Hunter, you know, um, nothing needs to be said about that. I mean, just incredibly heartbreaking for him to put on such a performance, 49 points, and just carry that team on his back and lose because they started, they tightened it up at the end. Obviously, the game went to overtime, and yeah, they just couldn't hit any of those shots there in overtime. It was like Hunter or bust, and they were missing layups and stuff. So, and then Queens, I mean, they were making some mistakes as well down the stretch. So it was kind of like a gritty, it was very entertaining, but it was definitely not a super like clean game on both sides, but really, really excited for. I'm actually wearing my locker room tee, the one that they were giving out on the court, the Dobo snuck me one, so
Oh, nice.
I appreciate you, Will. But yeah, so it was awesome. Just couldn't be happier for those guys. so well deserved. They worked really hard to get there, and I hope they can. I hope they can put up a fight at least in the tournament. So we'll see where they end up, but I'm hoping they can put up a fight. They've got a pretty good offense, but of course, it depends on matchups.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see where they end up.
All right, let's get back to tonight's action and let's jump over to the West Coast Conference where Griggs Gonzaga it was not even as close as that 11. Actually, it looks like a 9-point final there over
Yeah.
Oregon State. They were up big and, some garbage time points by Oregon State.
Yeah.
We are recording this early. It is 14-13 Santa Clara, about midway through the first half. But Griggs, assuming that St. Mary's wins this game, can you give us a quick report on the St. Mary's victory?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was nip and tuck all throughout this Santa Clara St. Mary's game. It is sort of a big rivalry, a conference rivalry, and it's really pivotal. St. Mary's is a virtual lock, but they are playing for seeding, and with the chance to knock out a bubble team and then potentially beat Gonzaga tomorrow away from home, they could really improve their seed. Um, and do we need to do another one in case Santa
Yeah,
Clara?
now this is in case Santa Clara wins the game. We're going to pretend we just erased the last minute and now
Yeah.
tell us about the Santa Clara victory.
Well, it was a big, big win over over St. Mary's in what was a real pivotal game for them. They're right on the bubble, and they really needed this win. They just did an incredible job getting it done against their rivals across the bay, and now they get to face Gonzaga. And it's the first time, I think, since 1947 that Gonzaga and St. Mary's have not met in the West Coast Conference Championship game.
It feels like that. Salika, what do you think tomorrow? Do you think the Zags win, or do you think the winner of this Santa Clara St. Mary's game has a real shot at pulling off the upset?
I know Dorman has mentioned we haven't seen Gonzaga at full strength for about a month, but it's hard to not see the Zags getting by either the Gales or the Broncos in what will be their swan song at Orleans Arena.
Yeah, I agree.
Speaking of swan songs, a quick shout out. Oregon State does not have much of a basketball tradition or culture, and they haven't had a lot of success. Certainly didn't have much before Wayne Tankle, but he did have some good years. I thought he did about as well there as anybody could for the time he was there. Took them to an Elite Eight, took them to an NCAA tournament, had a few years where they were in the top 25. There were more bad years than good, but there was some good. And, I kind of I kind of liked him as a coach. I thought, while not a great coach, he certainly had a good run at Oregon State, about as good as anybody could have.
I'm going to have to
Coached his
strongly
final
disagree.
game this line.
I'm going to strongly disagree with you on one point. Historically, under Ralph Miller, Oregon State did have a great program really through 1990, but ever since then, the balance of power shifted dramatically in that state to Oregon. But Oregon State, prior to that, did have a knack for reaching the occasional Elite Eight or Sweet 16 back then.
Okay. Real quick, I've read it. I know you're heading to Vegas. Are you going to be there in time for tomorrow night's championship game in this conference, or are you going to? Is it later on in the week that you're headed out?
No, I'm missing all of the WCC. I'm just going to be there for WAC, Mountain West, and Big West.
Okay. Oh, well, definitely have to check in with you about those. Let's jump over to Southland tonight, where just like Sunday, we had two more clunkers today in games that we deem pretty meaningless because we're just waiting for SFA and McNeese to play. But Salika, any thoughts on these two games today with Corpus Christi and UTRGV rolling?
Well, it was good to see UTRGV winning because they could be a potential noisemaker against McNeese, even though it's going to be rather unlikely on the home court for the Cowboys. And you also look at Texas A&M Corpus Christi, that's also shown they could potentially pull upsets against both SFA and McNeese. So good to see Chalk holding up for at least one round here.
Yeah, good. Griggs, do you think we'll see an upset tomorrow, or do you think we get SFA and McNeese on Wednesday?
I think we get SFA and McNeese. I know I would be tempted to pick UTRGV, but it would be an upset, and I don't see them doing it on McNeese's court.
Over in the SWAC today, we had opening round day. Alcorn State took care of Alabama State in a mild upset, and Grambling ended Mississippi Valley's rough season and Been another rough year for them. We've got Prairie View, Alcorn, and Jackson State Grambling tomorrow. It gets a little bit weird. They're not 8 versus 9. It's 8 versus 11 and 7 versus 9, whatever. But I
Yeah.
bet everybody's gunning for a team that I know you hold near and dear, the Bethune-Cookman team up there at the 1 seed.
Yeah, I think he's going to Dr. I'm telling y'all, if Dr. Bradley,
He hasn't played since the beginning of February. Come on, is
Yeah.
he really
I
playing?
know, but it's the SWAC. So they have these, they're very secretive. They have all these shenanigans up their sleeve. And if he is cleared by then, and which who knows, I don't know who he's cleared by. I don't know. I don't even know if they have I don't know what their medical situation is, but they can these guys can pull a first round upset in the tournament. Like I fully believe this. They have so much athleticism and just so much talent. It doesn't always like always gel. Like they're very athletic. Sometimes not the best like basketball IQ, just from watching them play. But if he can get back, if they truly are doing precautionary stuff and saving him for the tournament, I can see them. I mean, they almost beat Auburn in overtime, and then they played somebody else close. So I think, yeah, I think that this could potentially be an up, but he's got to play. Dr. Bradley's got to play.
They beat a lot of teams close. It seemed like a lot of their games that I saw.
But those
were
are
close,
without their
so.
best player here, Griggs. If he's back on the
Yeah.
court, I agree with Iveta. Griggs, let me ask you about tomorrow. Seating wise, do you see Alcorn upsetting Prairie View or Grambling
Nope.
upsetting Jackson State, or do you care? I mean,
I don't see Alcorn beating Prairie View. Maybe Grambling could make Jack State care. At the end of the day, I don't think it matters. I think FAMU and Cookman are it. I do agree that they should have an easy path to the semis. One of the things is this has been kind of a fun league. It would be fun for me to see a FAMU Cookman final because I think it's one of the better rivalries in this conference. I know Grambling and Southern and Prairie View, there's a lot of good rivalries, but the FAMU Cookman's the one that I sort of know the best. And man, wouldn't that be great in Atlanta of all places?
okay. We're going to skip the Big Sky for now. We'll get back to it in a few minutes. We're going to take a look at a few of the other games that are coming up tomorrow. Beginning with Metro Atlantic back on after a day off today. Championship game, Siena and Merrimack. I'd like to say I'm going to be there. I mean, honestly, I'm about 50-50 right now, but whether I'll be there or not. But
Who's got to clear you to play? Like
the same guy that clears Dr. Bradley. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But Salika, maybe he clears himself. He is a doctor after all.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Stalika, Siena Merrimack. What do you think on this game here? Siena is busting about 500 students down for this game from Albany.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a long trip from Albany down to the Jersey Shore here, the very southern tip of the Jersey Shore, and Merrimack still going to be going for their first NCAA tournament bid in Division One. But Siena, this is another team that's historically been one of the powers in the Metro Atlantic, and Jerry McNamara, certainly as a player, had plenty of NCAA tournament experience. I do think he's probably going to make his first NCAA tournament as a head coach.
Yeah. Oh, really? Griggs, 'cause I'm kind of going Merrimack here.
I am
mean,
too.
They were my pick heading into the tournament. I didn't think Siena would be here even. They impressed me with their win over Fairfield, but I'm going Merrimack.
Yeah, I am too. Siena looked better today. Merrimack really had to sweat out Marist in a game that or yesterday, sorry. But I'm going with Merrimack.
It is also NEC championship game. We know it's meaningless in terms of NCAA tournament bids. Long Island is in no matter what happens, but it is a game we're going to be watching. Mercyhurst at Long Island. It is at LIU. Any thoughts from anybody on this
Well,
game tomorrow.
I would like to point out that the last team that lost an NEC championship game and made the NCAA tournament also made the round of 32. And maybe Long Island should throw this game uh, just to be on that same trajectory.
To follow the Fairleigh Dickinson's footsteps.
Yes. Uh, and it's rare that you lose in the NEC championship game and make the round of 32.
We are also back in action in the America East tomorrow night. We've got the two semifinals. UMass Lowell's at UMBC. Stalika, this is another chance for a Baltimore area team to not break everyone's hearts like Navy and Towson have already done. And NJIT is at Vermont.
Yeah, I was going to say, what are the odds that UMass Lowell is going to hit a three at the buzzer to beat the Retrievers? Who really knows? But NJIT, they did show at least a little bit of mettle that had been missing for the past couple weeks, so they managed to survive against Maine. But I just have a hard time seeing how it could be anybody other than UMBC and Vermont meeting in the championship game. Only this time, it's not going to be in Patrick Gym. It's going to be in Baltimore County for a change on Saturday.
Yep, it will be, and interesting to see if there is an upset. Vermont could end up hosting another America East Championship game again. Believe it or not.
It's in the bylaws that
Mhm.
Vermont must host the championship game.
Uh, Let me jump back to the Big Skies as we're just waiting for the last game to go final. There were the 4-5 and the 3-6 games tonight, and while form held according to the seeds, Griggs, we really thought Northern Colorado was going to upset Montana. Honestly, they made a run late. Otherwise, it was Montana rolled this game.
Yeah, they did.
And just going final as we record this, Eastern Washington close all the way, held off Weber State, kind of led wire to wire, but it would never pulled away.
Yeah,
6 points.
they led wire to wire, but they never were able to get them beyond arm's reach. Weber State was never out of the game. So, how about Idaho, the big win over Montana State? That kind of an upset, kind of surprising. I was really surprised by pretty much all the results, sans Portland State's win.
Yeah. I don't know if you've been following any Big Sky or not this year, but do you have any thoughts on where we go from here with Portland State, Montana, Idaho, Eastern Washington tomorrow night?
Yeah, I've really just been following Portland State. They've impressed me. I have not, I know Eastern Washington, I have not really been following their just how they've ended the season. So I don't really know. I know that they've been playing really well at the end of the season. What they went like 9-1 or something like that, or so yeah. I like Portland State. I like Portland State at home. I don't know how they would do in at Starch Madness, but yeah, I would say based on because again I like to support teams that have been hot to just ride the momentum. So I would think this comes down to Portland State and Eastern Washington, and between the two of them, I mean Eastern Washington just recently beat Portland State, so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Well, I'll throw this out there for you. You're right about Eastern Washington. They won 8 of their last 9 heading into the conference tournament. It was actually their regular season finale, the game that they lost, and it was a home game to Idaho. So you want to talk about hot teams? Maybe it's this Idaho team who just pulled the big upset of Montana State, already beat Eastern Washington a week ago. Maybe something could happen here. Maybe we could get a 7 seed making a run to the finals. Let's see. It should be interesting tomorrow night, though.
Yeah, I think both games will be.
It's certainly the furthest Idaho's been in this conference tournament since they had a pair of guys named Chad and Nate Sherwood in their starting lineup.
Yes, we loved it when they had Chad Sherwood on the team. That's it for actually all the conferences that play today and all the conferences that we're coming back to. But we have 4 conferences starting off play tomorrow, and we're getting 3 of the big ones. It is opening round day in the ACC. Stalika, let's start with the 3 games tomorrow. Vatech, Wake, Stanford, who is still in bubble talk pit, SMU, who's still in the field, possibly playing Syracuse. So big games for at least two of the three.
No margin for error for either Virginia Tech, Stanford, or SMU, especially the Ponies, as we've touched on earlier. They've been on a really downward trajectory. But you look at Stanford, who's actually been on a bit of a roll themselves. Of course, if they do beat Pitt, they will have to face an NC State team that will be looking for some revenge of their own. And Virginia Tech, let's also not forget that one of their biggest wins was at Clemson, but they're going to have to go past a Wake Forest team that has shown they can pick off a few teams themselves. But granted, this is going to be in Charlotte, not Winston-Salem.
I don't know which of the three will do it, but I think one of these three teams pulls off the upset tomorrow. I just, I think we get one out of three. That's kind of what my prediction is here.
It would
Great.
be, I mean, it would torpedo the team that they upset.
Yeah. So somebody's basically going off the board tomorrow with one of
Yeah.
these games. Uh, let's ask the question we love to ask. Ivana, let me start with you. At the end of the day, who's winning on Saturday? Who's going to take the ACC tournament?
Duke.
Okay, you can't go wrong with
I
that.
wish I had a different answer for you, but
I think it is Duke. Duke doesn't need to win this tournament. Duke doesn't need to win on Thursday. Duke is a 1 seed in Greenville because that's where they selected, and they're in the East. But the ACC tournament still means something to them. They're not going to rest their horses.
I agree. I think Duke. I think you're both absolutely right. I think Duke will win this event as
Yeah,
well.
I think they do. I mean, who have they not? It's not who have they not beaten. Who have they not blown out?
Miami, because they haven't played the Hurricanes this year.
Well, true. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, Griggs, let me stick with you here. It is opening round day in the Big Ten, the new format with all 18 teams in. So we get these two extra games, Oregon, Maryland, Northwestern, Penn State. Could you care less about any two games during championship week than these two?
No, Northwestern Penn State well, they're both just the United Center, it will be filled up for the quarterfinals on they could play tomorrow in a high school gym and not fill it up.
Honestly, they ought to just move the first round to DePaul's gym because it's certainly not getting any use right now.
Right, yeah.
Let's ask
They
the
could
question
move it
again.
to Chicago State.
Salika, the bigger question: who wins the Big Ten tournament? This may not be. Is it just Michigan, or can somebody else take it?
I could see a team like Wisconsin potentially getting hot because they also just came off with a big win at Purdue over the past weekend. And speaking of the Boilers, number 7, wow, you talk about a fall from grace right here. They're actually below UCLA in the pecking order.
They are. How
But
about that?
I'm gonna stick with the Badgers for my pick.
I bet. How about you? Who wins the Big Ten tournament?
oh, I'd like to see like Illinois or Nebraska. I think it's interesting because I think both of them lost to UCLA, right?
They did.
So it's like this, but Illinois still has those overtime losses. I mean, I think they're. I don't know. I would like to see. I like the Wisconsin angle. Um, I'd like to see Illinois or Nebraska. I'd really like to not Mich. I just don't think it's going to be Michigan State.
I don't
But I think Illinois or Nebraska could potentially do it. Depend if they either of them get a favorable matchup. Yeah, I think because Michigan has shown that they're not invincible.
Yeah,
It's kind of funny you said not Michigan State because honestly, I'm going against that. I am taking the Sparty to win this event.
Uh-huh.
really.
I'm taking Illinois to knock off Michigan in the
I
semifinal,
am
and
oh,
Michigan State over Illinois in the championship.
I am too. I'm picking Illinois. I think
Okay.
but I have Michigan State going to the championship game. One of the reasons I'm not picking Michigan is like it's sort of the opposite of what I said about Duke. It's not the opposite in the sense that they're going to be in the Midwest in Chicago this same building, I think. And they're going to be either in Buffalo or Philadelphia if they end up, but they don't need to win it. And I think they're going to be kind of looking ahead. If anything, I almost think they want a couple days off to kind of rest and regroup. And I just think Illinois will win the tournament or at least knock out Michigan.
I think
Let's
another storyline here is Ohio State and Indiana as your two bubble teams. The Buckeyes are not going to be harmed if they lose to Iowa, for example. The only thing that could possibly potentially knock them down to Dayton would be losing to either Oregon or Maryland. But if you're Indiana, you're going to be sweating bullets if you lose to Northwestern a second time. And even if you do get past that game, beating Purdue is not going to be easy at all.
I think they need to get past Purdue also.
Yeah, I do
And
too.
by then it might be too late because once the selection committee gets started on Thursday, it becomes harder to take some of these games later in the week into account.
I think a deep Indiana run gets them in. I don't think that that'll be a problem. Let's jump over to the Big 12. And we've got opening round day here as well. Griggs, interesting. We've got Cincinnati, Utah, Arizona State, Baylor, Colorado, Oklahoma State. But it's just fascinating that BYU talk about falling, fell all the way to the 10 seed by virtue of tiebreakers and has to play in the opening round against K-State, despite
Yeah,
beating Texas Tech in the regular season finale.
yeah,
They
and
fell,
this
they
this
fell
was
below Cincinnati. They fell below UCF. They fell below everybody.
Yeah, and this was a team that they're a 10th seed for a long time. They were ranked 10th or better. I mean, they were just riddled by injuries in a way that wasn't fair. Not a whole lot of compelling stories tomorrow. Cincinnati has been playing so much better in the latter part of the season, but I still don't think they've done enough to get selected. I mean, I think they'd have to certainly win tomorrow and then beat UCLF. And if they beat Arizona, I think that's enough, but I don't think they can. And BYU, it's just can they play their way out of that position? But the way they've been going, I don't think they get past West Virginia.
Of course,
I
it would
think
be the
they'll.
most Cincinnati thing to do ever would be to lose to Utah and basically close the book on that
Yeah,
potential run.
I think Baylor does beat Arizona State. I don't think it's a huge upset. Arizona State has no coach anymore. But
yeah,
I think Colorado Oklahoma State might be the best game in terms of if you want a game to watch. Not that it has any meaning really.
right.
Um, let's do it again here. Run through each of you. Greg, do you want to go first? Who wins the Big 12?
I'm going to pick a team that I'm picking Houston. They've been a little bit disappointing this year. I know that they haven't gotten the colossal wins. I think they can do it in this tournament, though.
Great. Salika?
If I had to flip a coin between Houston and Kansas, I'm probably going to go with the Cougars right here because I feel like they are overdue to get a couple of wins of significance right here. They get a fairly easy start against either West Virginia or BYU, and you look at Kansas, who's probably going to have a tougher than expected game against TCU in their quarterfinal. And I think if I'm Texas Tech or Arizona, probably a good chance for those teams to potentially get some rest. But Iowa State being in the second round is a little bit of a surprise. But then again, one of those teams that was going to be a protected seed is going to basically have to potentially go 4-4.
Yeah, I'll tell you, if I had to flip a coin between Houston and Kansas, I would still pick Arizona to win this conference tournament.
Okay.
How about you?
I will pick Arizona to win it all here. But and Stalika took the words right out of my mouth. I think TCU can beat Kansas on Wednesday
I do
or
too.
on Thursday. Yeah. I think TCU can beat Kansas. I think we're gonna shake some things up there um on Wednesday or Thursday. So it'll be interesting to see how this looks. But I think looking at their path, and I think it's just gonna be tough to beat Arizona, whoever comes out of that bottom part of the bracket.
Amazing. We did our bracket rundown show earlier. I bet you weren't with us. But TCU, we ended up with an 8 seed in the tournament right now. That's how hot this team has been lately. And I think we got it right, in my opinion, at least. And if we didn't lock them in, they're almost a lock to make the NCAA tournament for a team that was barely on the bubble a few weeks ago.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys mentioned this too. during that, but they're seeking revenge. They lost to Kansas in overtime,
Yeah,
so
in a game they really kind of blew. I think they were up
yeah.
by 9 or something was it 7 with 19 seconds? It was, I mean, they had the game in hand. It was preposterous that they lost it.
One more conference kicking off, not quite as big as the last three we just did, but it is opening round day in Conference USA. Salika, I know you're going to be glued to FIU, Missouri State, and Jack State, New Mexico State.
Unfortunately, Barry Henson's not coaching Missouri State anymore, so I'm not as glued to this one as I would have been about 10 or 15 years ago. New Mexico State, this was another team that
Mm.
potentially had a chance to knock out Liberty, but they were a little late to that party before Liberty got bored, lost a couple games. But I think as far as tomorrow, I'm not going to be paying attention. I'll be blunt.
I get it, I get it. But again, the question here, Griggs, Liberty struggled a little down the stretch, although they did beat Sam Houston in their regular season finale.
Yeah.
Did Liberty just kind of lose focus and they're going to get focused again, or are they vulnerable in this tournament?
Common sense says that it's exactly that. They just lost focus. They had wrapped it up. They didn't lose a game until they had clinched first place, and then they sort of looked really unimpressive. But I do think they get focused again. But they're not who I'm picking to win, even though that I think they will win. I'm going to go with Western Kentucky, a bit
I
of a
knew you were
dark
going to go there
horse.
because you always pick Western Kentucky to win this tournament.
Yeah,
I think if we look back the last 10 years, you've picked them every single year to win Conference USA.
I think there was one year where I didn't.
I'm going to go with Liberty. I think it was I think they're going to wake up for this event. In Huntsville, Alabama. I don't know why it's not called Rocket City Madness, but it should be, and we're calling it Rocket City
We're
Madness.
calling it, yes, okay.
I bet it. You think Liberty? You think Sam Houston? You want to go somewhere else?
Yeah, I think Liberty will take it. This conference, yeah, I just wish it wasn't so chalky. Um, but yeah, I mean, Sam Houston, I think they have a chance, but I just haven't been impressed with them. Their last few games. They lost to a Delaware team that didn't even score 40 points yesterday or whatever day it was. All my days are running together, but I don't know. It just seems like a bad time for them to kind of go off the rails. So yeah, Liberty is just they're just they're well coached, they're disciplined. I think they'll show up for this, but I can also see like um yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of somebody else who you all haven't mentioned that could show
I
up
think
like
either
that.
I personally think either Liberty wins this, or we end up with something like a Middle Tennessee Kennesaw championship game, just something crazy that just
Yeah.
fucking blows up on us.
Yeah.
Conference USA just hasn't been the same since they got away from the curtain.
Yeah. We need the curtain back.
That's it for all the games tomorrow. Let's do a quick check-in here on our survival board, which is up there on the website. It's a tool, Briggs, right? We do this for the NCAA
Yes.
Tournament Selection Committee. It's
We
going to be
do.
starting to meet already, right?
Right, yeah. And which means this board is getting a major workout as they start to meet, because it tells them, it basically does so much of the work for them. It makes it so easy for them.
And among things, it tracks how many teams are left with a chance
Right,
to win
yeah.
it all. Heading into the day today, there were 200 teams left with a shot to win it all. Since we started the show, we had one more team that came off that's not going to show up quite yet in the Big Sky. But as a result of today's games, prior to the Big Sky, we dropped under 200, 198. It's actually 197 right now.
Yeah.
That's where we'll be tomorrow morning.
And the loser of the St. Mary Santa Clara game will not come off
Will not come
because
off. They'll at
yeah,
least be under consideration. St.
right.
Mary's is already a lock, in fact.
Yeah.
But we do have teams in various different colors here. For example, and it kind of helps the committee out. So if they come to
Yeah.
this board, Griggs, and they say, wow, should UConn get a bid? We just heard that Danny Hurley's brother got fired. Maybe they shouldn't, maybe UConn should not be in.
Yeah, and maybe the only time they've seen UConn play was the last game against Marquette. I mean, the committee members, that might be the only game they saw. So they might not know that UConn should be in, but then they come to this board and they realize, yes, they need to select UConn.
If they come to this board and say, well, Arizona State, maybe we should put them in, despite them not having a coach.
Yeah, and Arizona State, they had a couple big wins. I want to say that they played really well against Arizona, and again, the committee might not be aware that they struggled for much of the season. That may have been the only Arizona State game they saw, but when they cross-checked that selection with this board, they realized that they can't select Arizona State.
Not as that large.
Yeah, not as it large.
But then if they get to like a debate on Indiana, we talked about Indiana needing a few wins earlier.
Well, they shouldn't select Indiana, but they might. They might. I mean, we still have Indiana in the grounds to where they can be discussed. We selected Indiana. We got it wrong. But
and Salika, what happens if they come to this board and they say, we should give Winthrop an at-large bid?
Well, we'll just say, unfortunately, Winthrop had their best chance yesterday against High Point, but ultimately lost that game. So seeing as how they're in red, they are eliminated. They do not even need to be considered.
Yeah.
You see the teams that bold in all caps, they are actually automatic bid winners, like High Point, who we just mentioned. But
yeah,
let's I'm gonna do it one more time, Griggs. I'm really getting frustrated. I spent $700 on it. I'm up to about $800 now with my $5 per question.
Well, sales have been really disappointing here, Chad, and I just don't think you're using it right. You're making it look bad.
I thought we'd go with a good question here tonight to ask. At first, I asked it to another AI engine. Should the NCAA tournament expand so that more mid-majors can get in? That was a good question, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a basketball-related question. Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good question.
And the answer we got from the other AI was increased access, more deserving teams, more Cinderella potential, but the new spots will likely go to power conferences, will dilute the quality of the March Madness. There might be more bid stealers from weak conferences. I'm not sure how that works from expanding, but it's all there. I'm going to take that same exact question in here to the Griggs AI.
Okay, yeah. I mean,
should the NCAA tournament expand so we get more mid-majors? Should we feed this question and see what happens?
Yeah, I mean, you should get a much better answer than the one.
Is it going?
Yeah, it's working. Here it comes.
No, the problem with expansion is that it will take a lot of attention away from the pre-quarterfinal conference tournament games in leagues like the Big 12 and Big East and SEC. The crowning jewel of the Big Ten tournament is seeing Minnesota take on Northwestern, and if the NCAA tournament expands to where we would see those same types of teams and matchups again a week later, people will lose interest in those early round Big Ten tournament games, and the conference tournament may collapse, and the whole Big Ten could collapse right along with it. We've seen this before. The NCAA tournament expanded multiple times in the 1970s, and as a result the ABA Basketball League, the AFL Football League, and the American League in Baseball all went out of business.
The American League of Baseball, Griggs. This is what your AI is telling me.
Well, we're still working out some kinks. Anyway, Chad, that'll be $5 more.
No, the worst part is the National League adopted a designated hitter in 2022. Why wasn't that mentioned?
That's it. I was going to final thoughts. Salika, let me let you start off.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and touch on it one more time, where if you're the ACC, this basically is going to be now or never for your bubble teams like Virginia Tech, SMU, and Stanford. Even a team like Cal, who is basically have to win the whole thing right now just to make the field. You get one more chance. I would say Florida State would be a possible team to upset Duke, but unfortunately, every time we've said that about the Blue Devils, they're just blowing someone out to the moon by 30 or 35 points. It doesn't matter if it's North Carolina. It doesn't matter if it's Louisville. And just imagine how motivated they'll be if they get to see Miami in the championship game, seeing as how they haven't played the Canes this year.
That's true. I bet it. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm a little behind on the games, but I have been hearing a lot of chatter on the socials about conference tournaments being unfair, and some people are talking about, just how are we going to reward the regular season champion, and I think it's an interesting conversation. And I think there's a lot of merit to situations like Navy and other teams that have, you know, have won the regular season, but then lost in their conference tournament. But also at the same time, I feel like people are forgetting that this is what makes March Madness great. And as we proceed into an environment where we're going to see less upsets, at the very least we have our conference tournaments that we can rely on for that. And at the end of the day, it's conference tournaments are, or the regular season champion is, it's all about seeding, right? So they earn their seed, and then they are rewarded in that way. They have the easiest path in most of these leagues. They have the easiest path to their respective championship game. So I think it's fair. I think it's, obviously sometimes it's not fair, but obviously, in some of these leagues, that's how the cookie crumbles, and you can't have it both ways, right? So either we accept conference tournaments the way they are, or, so it's I don't know. I feel like the heat that conference tournaments are getting is not warranted, because it's never going to be a perfect system, but I feel like it's pretty good the way it is.
I love that you brought up this point here, because this is
Yeah.
a point that I was making on social media the last couple of days, is that the vast majority of the sports that we follow do not determine their champion by a regular season. They determine their champion by a postseason tournament. And for these smaller leagues, they know they're not going to win the NCAA tournament. Their championship is the conference tournament. So this is the way sports work. This is the way all sports work. We don't give the World Series title to the best regular season team in baseball. We don't give the Super Bowl championship to the best team in the NFL. So why would we give the Patriot League championship to Navy without them going ahead and winning a conference tournament? You win a tournament, that's what you got to do. I'm fine with giving teams buys if they have better records at all, but you got to play a tournament. And I think that that's recognized by all these conferences. And I love championship week. It's my favorite time of the year.
Just don't tell that to people in the English Premier League and La Liga, who basically do reward.
I said real sports, Stalika. Real sports. Greg, do you want to finish off the show?
Yeah, I'll build on that. Like, one of the ways I can justify conference tournaments is that there's no rule that conferences have to have them. Now, I realize that that's sort of insincere, because for a lot of cases, it might be their biggest showcase event of the year and their biggest TV spotlight of the year. And that wouldn't exist without the tournament, a lot of the funding, but they can also structure them how they want. I don't like how a lot of under the radar leagues in particular have gone away from campus sites and gone away from sort of the ladder formats. I think the ASUN would be better served with the format that they had before, not just for the tournament itself, but for the storylines of the regular season playing into it. Having said that, I understand completely how disappointing it is when you feel that the best team or the most deserving team had a bad day on a bad day and doesn't get the chance. But who has that happened to? One of the teams was Wilmington. Well, if Hofstra wins the tournament tomorrow, they will have matched UNC Wilmington's conference win total based on their conference tournament wins. Had Georgia Southern somehow managed to beat Troy today, they would have won as many Sun Belt games as Troy did, even though they finished 10th in the standings because of how they played their way through the tournament. Northern Iowa won 15 Missouri Valley games. Belmont, as good as they were, only won 16. It was only one more. That's not a gross discrepancy. Now, we get those every now and then, but more often than not, or more, I shouldn't say more often than not, but more often than what people realize, I think the conference tournaments, not always, but usually do get the best team in. And sometimes it's not the first place team. Even in the SoCon tonight, God, I'm blanking. Yeah, Furman won 22 games this year. East Tennessee State won 23. It's not like that they were that far apart. And if you watch that game and you watch the last couple weeks of the season, Furman was arguably better.
I'll add to that too. One more real quick point here. 3 of the biggest Cinderella March Madness run teams we've seen in recent history: UMBC over Virginia, Fairleigh Dickinson over Purdue, and that St. Peter's incredible run that they made. You know what those 3 teams all had in common? None of them were regular season champions in their conferences. They all pulled off upsets to make, well, Fairleigh Dickinson, there's an asterisk
Yeah.
because they didn't win their conference tournament, but none of them were their regular season titles. So
Yeah.
just because your best team on league standings at the end of the year is not in, doesn't mean, as you said, Griggs, your best team is not in. Those were those conferences' best teams.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. But on that note, we've gone way too long, so on behalf of I've been Abraham, John Salika, and David Griggs, I'm Chad Sherwood. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back again tomorrow night with another one of these at who knows what hour. Talk to you again real soon.